On this episode of WtFun podcast, the ladies talk about the latest pick-a-pile tarot readings from astrologer Chris Corsini, their experiences in leadership growth, from working with great people to not so great people, and meeting with corporate director of creative development of Cedar Fair Entertainment, Ken Parks. All this on WtFun podcast. Hey friends, welcome back to a new episode of WtFun, episode 28. Oh yeah, 28. Oh my gosh. Speaking of that, Happy New Year again, once again to everyone. Speaking of New Year, I don't know about y'all ladies, but did you listen to, or not listen to, but watched Chris Corsini Pick a Pile? Did you see that episode, Pick a Pile? Because I picked a pile.
Yes, sure did.
Oh my God.
What did your pile say?
Well, my pile, so there are 3 rocks to choose from. I chose a rock, rose quartz. It was the last one in that pile. Was basically, things are going to be kind of slow for me in a sense where this is going to allow me to plan. I got to restructure myself basically after a, rough 2021. This is like a year for me to slow down and rebuild, plan things out, reaching out to the community to help me and for me to give that energy back and help others, give and take type deal. But
like some sort of mentoring. And
yeah. Definitely mentoring. But what were the other 2 readings? The other 2 piles?
Well, I picked the middle pile, and I don't remember the crystal. It was very interesting. It looked like
it was a ball,
like a planet.
Yeah,
it looked like a planet, and it drew me. And what that one was talking about was letting go of things that no longer serve you, and allowing yourself to restructure your life to invite more love, abundance, and creativity. But in order to do that, you kind of have to let go of the things that no longer serve you to allow space for the new things to come.
It kind of reminds me of that organizer. What's her name? She was like popular.
Marie Kondo.
Yes. Marie Kondo.
If it doesn't give you happiness or what is that?
If it doesn't spark joy.
Thank you. Yes. Spark joy. Hashtag
spark joy.
Let it go.
That's how I organize all my stuff.
Yeah. I have the book too. It's right here. What did you pick, Kesia? Because I know that you listened to this too. You did?
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, but you watch all 3. Like you listen to all 3, don't you? Well, I'll tell
normally
you the first
I do,
one.
but I haven't listened to them yet, so I don't know this one.
The first one was just be patient. Like allow yourself to let things come to you, kind of thing.
I feel like that's been the reading. The past months for Leo has just been kind of to be patient, which I think has been accurate. Before it was I remember distinctly in the summer it was just be patient because you've been working really hard and everything that you've been working really hard for is gonna pay off, and that was definitely that definitely happened for me. So I would be surprised. Now I know what all 3 mean, so I'll have to just watch the video to see which one would I pick.
Yeah, which one calls you? I love listening to that. I just love that. It helps restructure things. Sometimes things get overwhelming and you think oh, what should I be doing or what shouldn't I be doing?
Right.
You need some sort of guidance, and that is always helpful. But I guess we could apply guidance in different parts of our lives as well, right? Professionally, we could look at that. And sometimes, for me personally, sometimes I feel at work, I'm overwhelmed with things. And it's important to reach out and say, help me, please. Or hey, I'm feeling this. What do you feel? And having that mentor or confidant or person that you can talk to is always helpful.
Yeah.
And it helps you grow as a person as well. I think you can apply that in anything in your life.
Absolutely.
Have you guys ever had someone that you felt met that for you and inspired you to do greater things in life or make those decisions that led to abundance?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had that a lot when I was at Disney. On my shelves, which are newly styled as of today. I actually have a post-it up there from Alice Harkins that she left me on her retirement day.
Aww.
And I kept it.
Aww.
It's up there.
I see it's a blue one.
Yeah.
She is a great person.
Yeah, I mean, she is so great. Like, and I just feel like in general, like the nice thing about working at Disney, like, yes, it's like completely insane, and you have to just like be up ready for the challenge because you don't know what is gonna happen. Walk in one day and everything's on fire.
Yeah.
But I feel like you always have like a really strong team, and I definitely feel like that was the case when I was in entertainment. Like, even when I was in ASM, like the ASMs were really great. The PSMs were great. When I became a PSM, I would like one of the first things I would do is like see who's on property for the day, because I just like sometimes I just need someone to tell me that I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
For making my decisions. You know what I mean? Like talk this out with me. You know what I mean? So you're not making decisions in a vacuum. And sometimes, there's nobody there. So you kind of have to just go for it, but I think that was like always like the really nice thing is that I always knew that there was somebody on the team. Like, it didn't matter who was there that day. I was like, who is on property? Because I just need to talk this out with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a situation. This is what I think. Does that make sense? Is that something that you would do? You know what I mean? Like, not to get validation, but just to like make sure that I'm thinking about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of provides that other perspective too, and helps reassure you. Mm-hmm.
I would say in my 24 years with the resort, I've taken tidbits from lots of different leaders, some good leaders, some bad leaders. And I think those ones that, weren't as inspirational were just those that you had to think about, something that I didn't want to shape myself as a leader to be. But, in my current role, I am surrounded by a very, strong group of individuals who support one another. And in a way, we're kind of like family, and they've, helped me through tough times. They all take care of each other. We take care of each other, like, as a family. And so just seeing that type of camaraderie and also support, I think is really important, especially for this upcoming year as I restructure myself. They've been helping me a lot greatly, and I'm very grateful for that. The leader that I have right now, she's been really, really awesome. But I take tidbits from different leaders especially throughout my journey, that have helped shaped me to who I am today. I'm successful because of a lot of these leaders, and that comes from when I was in restaurants. From restaurants to entertainment and everybody in between from other areas. And I've taken tidbits. And I love that our entertainment team today, with shows in Atmo, parades, character operations, I love that we all work together and help one another. I know that I can lean to Renee, even though Renee and I, us three have been friends, in the last couple of years. Like, even though like we're friends at work, I know I can tap Renee's shoulder, for a different entertainment division, and another, manager from a different department. Regardless, they're there to help and be supportive. You don't find that a lot in other departments, which can sometimes be a struggle for new leaders.
Yeah, it's fun to see that there's the the teamwork, but yet there are individuals within the team, right? Yeah. And even within the larger team, there are sections within that team. So we still keep our individuality as people and then as a team, right? Different areas, but we are still able to come together and work as an overall team. I think that definitely helps create like a great environment to work in. I know I personally have had fantastic groups of people that I've worked with, and I'll go back and look at shows and remember an era based on that show and the people that I worked with. And not too long ago, I spoke with a friend who said, I miss the people. That he no longer works there, works somewhere else, is doing great things outside of the company, but misses the people. And I think that's what a lot of us stay around for, is because of that teamwork effort and the people that you encounter and work with. Like, I know Alice was huge mentor. And many times it was just because she led by example. And so you just saw what she was doing, and not that you had a conversation with her, right? It was just like she was doing it right. And then you knew what to do. And even those negative ones, those are good ones too. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm definitely not doing that. But now when I'm leading, I tell people, don't do that one. Don't do what I just did. Do this instead.
It's not even like everyone, like, just some leaders are just like terrible. You know what I mean? Like, we all make bad decisions when we're leading.
Yeah.
Decisions we can take back. but I think at the same time, it's beneficial anyway to like still make those bad decisions and be like, oh, for next time.
Exactly.
Next time this rolls around.
As long as you own it. As long as you own those mistakes, Totally.
It happens.
I look forward to seeing what the next several years will be, as we evolve, especially next year. I wonder what evolution will happen for me. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, and on our episode that we have, coming out right now, that we're going to introduce is like, we have Ken Parks, who, we got to work with at Disney, and he's one of those leaders that is just like the best person to work with. Like, honestly, like I just whenever I get to work with Ken, I'm just like so happy, because Ken really takes the moment to just make sure that he respects you as a professional in the room, and then he also like cares about you as an individual. You know what I mean? And he says it all the time. Like, just be nice, and we'll get through it. And like, I feel like that's like been so successful for Ken, and like I love getting to work with him. So I was glad we got to have him on our show.
Yeah,
it's really great to go through his story and see where it has led him. Right, that mentality, how many doors it's opened, and how many doors he's gone through, and where he's at now, because it's pretty impressive.
He's up there now, and it's great. It's great to get to see you. So I'm excited we got to talk to him.
Yeah.
All right, Kimmie, take it away.
All right, so joining us today is a master storyteller and creative leader who has been in the themed entertainment industry for 27 years. His current role is with Cedar Fair Entertainment as a corporate director of creative development. Wow, that's quite the title. He's responsible for the development and creation of new lands, attractions, and shows for the company's 13 theme parks in the United States and Canada. That includes SoCal's famous Knott's Berry Farm. He's also been the, key person in creating one of Knott's famous events, which is Knott's Scary Farm. He also received the TEA Award, which is the award-winning Ghost Town Alive, which is an awesome stunt show if you haven't seen it yet at Knott's Berry Farm. His attraction development works for Knott's include the V Arcade, the Calico River Rapids, and Knott's Berry Tales. You guys remember Knott's Berry Tales? I do. It was a cute little, fun animatronic walkthrough back in the 80s, but that's changed since then. So I still have yet to check out the new version. And so also, prior to Cedar Fair, our guest wrote and directed shows and experiences for several internationally known entertainment companies, for Walt Disney Imagineering and Walt Disney Creative. He was also the resident director of Aladdin, a musical spectacular, which was one of my favorite live musical productions over at California Adventure, and Frozen Live at the Hyperion. He was also involved in the creation of Star Wars Launch Bay, Tai Chi with Donald over at Shanghai Disney, and The Muppet Presents Great Moments in History. He's got a lot going on. I mean, the list is long. And also one more thing, for Warner Brothers and Coca-Cola, he served as a writer-director of Hogwarts Castle Adventure and the 2002 Salt Lake Winter Olympics Coke Live Experience, Good heavens. Oh my gosh. Let's welcome to the show without further ado, Mr. Ken Parks. Yay!
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to see all of you again.
We are so excited to have you on the show. Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know if you remember this, but many, many moons ago, see, I, worked for the mouse. Well, I still work for the mouse, and you, I believe, worked for the mouse as well.
For a long time.
Yeah. There used to be this restaurant called ABC Bistro, and you were one of the actors that would waltz into one of the replica ABC soap opera sets and bust out into a scene. And so I remember you as this tycoon who always cracked me up because you were, I think, personally, the most dramatic of the other aspiring actors.
Thank you.
Please tell me this was you. Was that you?
It was me. I created a character called Santiago Cortez, who was, I don't think he was a millionaire. I think he was a thousandaire, actually. But he, that was such a fun gig. All of these great friends that I had met, through the improv world. And, we would come into your dining experience or to your table and perform these impromptu soap opera scenes while you ate expensive chicken. So, probably explains why it's not there anymore, but that's okay.
Oh no! Now it's used as a Disney dance party theater.
That's a better use.
Well, I know you were acting at Disney, and I know you've done a couple of things, but currently today you are the corporate director of creative development for Cedar Fair Entertainment. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, that's what a title. What does that mean?
Exactly. Tell our listeners, what does that mean?
Well, what it means is I am heading up the planning and development plus entertainment division, or a section of it, from a creative development side. So looking at all of the we have 13 parks within the United States and Canada. And so looking at all of those parks and leaning a little more into story than we have previously as a company, and developing new lands, new attractions, new entertainment offerings, new experiences. And that ranges from, for instance, this year, I can talk about all these things because they've been released, but we have a couple of new hotels and resorts that are coming online this year, along with a new land at Kings Dominion in Virginia, and then a celebration, a gigantic 50th celebration for Kings Island. And so there are a lot of those projects, they're varied. You can kind of see from that listing, they're varied, but, I'm in charge of a team that looks at all of those things and creates and, produces great experiences for families. So it's not a bad gig.
It's an amazing gig.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Did you ever think that that's where you would end up?
Well, it's interesting. I always knew from an early age that I wanted to do something creative. I was always creative as a kid, so I knew, and that pathway, it kind of had an interesting pathway. I liked creative writing really early on, so I never thought that I wanted to be a writer, but I just kind of did it. And then my mother, got a call from my fifth grade teacher who said, "You've got to do something with him because all he wants to do is this." So I knew from really early on, I've got to do that. And I grew up in a really small farming community in the Central Valley of California. So I didn't have anyone that I knew that did this. I didn't have anyone in my family who did it. So it seemed a little far-fetched to, even my family would kind of look at that and go, "I don't know how you're going to make a living doing this,"
Yeah.
So luckily, I kind of think there's a lot of this that's all sort of meant to be. I think I visualized a bunch of this and I kind of knew, I don't know that happens for everybody, but I knew early on, really, I wanted to do this to create. So,
yeah. I mean, you're such a creative person. I mean, you and Dawn, your wife, and I just feel like you guys are just a creative family that's just so funny and so positive to be around. I love you guys.
She's the funny one. She's really the funny one. You know, I get by, but she's amazingly funny. Yeah.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
So,
You know.
Yeah.
and taking it back to that, when you where did you start acting? Because is that where you started? I mean, yes, you started writing as a kid, and then how
Yeah.
did that get you into improv and acting, which
Yeah.
then opened up other things for you?
Well, so that phone call from the 5th grade teacher led my mom, who, you know, bless her heart, had no clue on what do I do with this kid? So luckily she called a community theater that was in a town not too far from us, and someone picked up the phone, and it was this man by the name of John Leffingwell, who was just this guy who was just so great with, you know, trying to get the arts going in the Central Valley. And he said to her, well, we don't really have anything for him currently, but send him over. Let him sit through rehearsals. And so I did. And so then I started doing, you know, he was doing Taming of the Shrew was the next show that he did. And he put me in he wrote a little role for me as a page. And then, you know, there was a tobogganing accident with the person that was playing Biandello. So at the age of, you know, 12, I'm now Biandello. And so it just kind of went from there. I just fell in love with it.
Uh-huh.
And so, you know, and then that became, okay, this is how I express my creativity. And then I, you know, did an apprenticeship with the California Shakespeare Festival. And from there went to school and was in the College of the Sequoias there in the Central Valley. And then I went over to UC Santa Barbara and thought that was kind of where I was going to go. And then I ended up getting a job in all places, Fresno, California, with a theater company that's still there. And at the time I was there, folks like Aubrey McDonald and Sharon Leal and all of these folks were there, and we were all trying to make it as performers. And the nice thing about all of this is that I've always made a living doing this. So my family had this worry. They didn't know how it was going to happen. Now, I wouldn't say I've gotten rich, but I've gotten rich in the notion that I've met so many wonderful people.
Yeah.
But I've made a living and I've supported a family. And so even in Fresno, you know, I made a living as a performer and was there for 4 or 5 years. And then I had always wanted to. I loved the melodrama theater at Knott's Berry Farm, and I met this guy who was in one of the scene shops that had performed there as an actor. And I said, how do I get to do that? That seems like really fun. And he said, oh, they never hold auditions for that because it's such a great gig. And it ran for like 45 years or something. And so I was, anyway, I picked up the phone one night after I talked to him and was like, well, let me just see. So I called Knott's, and on their recording, it said, hey, we're having auditions for the world famous Birdcage Theater on Saturday at 8 a.m. And I called Friday night at 9 p.m. So I got in the car and drove down to Los Angeles and auditioned for the Birdcage Theater. And then the story gets weirder because the guy that was casting it went home, and his partner said, did you see anybody good today? And he said, well, we saw these people, and there's this guy from the Central Valley, but, you know, his partner said, well, what's his name? And he told him my name, and his partner said, you got to hire him immediately. Call him now.
Wow.
I had done theater with in the Central Valley. So
that is crazy.
Super crazy. But it's, you know, it's that stuff of you kind of wind up, you know, I had always dreamed that would be fun to do. And I think I've just said yes a lot.
Yes.
And you know, I could have in that moment said, well, it's a 4-hour car ride and it's late and they wouldn't cast me anyway.
Or just listen to the guy in the first place and said like, oh, well, they're not looking for anyone. So why even make a phone call?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, I've been led to do those. And I wound up, you know, in some interesting spots where you people that you've watched for so long, and then all of a sudden you're on stage with them. And it's just really, that's the part about it, that my life has been so rich with those moments,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those are definitely like the moments. I remember like every time like I would do like an event that would be like this is like a once in a lifetime event that you get to do, everyone's always like, you have to like take a minute, like, yes, you're busy, right? Like you have to like still do your job, but you also need to like take a minute and like appreciate the fact that this is a once in a lifetime event and you're there. So you need to like enjoy the moment,
Yeah.
I think that's definitely.
Yeah. And I always felt so lucky to be in those moments, right? That there just were these really neat opportunities that came along. And, I remember once we were doing something at the El Capitan Theater, and somebody came up and said, listen, we're just going to have you do your show, but we want to let you know that somebody's going to come in. And it was like, oh, okay, great. And so I'm doing the show, and in runs Phyllis Diller. And I don't know if you remember her, but she played the queen in A Bug's Life, but she was a very famous comedian that, I kind of always on variety shows. And anyway, there was this moment of, it wasn't just, hey, someone's coming in to watch. She got up in my face and then was on stage with me. And now I'm looking about this far away, nose to nose with Phyllis Diller. And in my mind, I'm saying, you will process this later.
Yes.
You will process this later. Because if you do it here, it will be disastrous. And I would say not the most famous of people, but certainly just that thing of, how in the world did that just happen?
Yeah.
Life just gave you that weird moment, which was so great.
That you're going to talk about many years later.
Yeah.
On a podcast.
Yeah. Well, there's been so many of those. There's just been so many of those,
Yeah. I remember, Ken, like when I met you at Disney, you had already gone on from being an actor. Now you were a show director at the parks. And so like, how did you make that transition from like being a performer at the parks and into a show director role?
Well, I was lucky that the theater company I was working with in Fresno, I actually then became a theater director there as well. So I had that in my background. And then what happened was this job that I got at the Birdcage Theater, where you kind of think, oh gosh, this has run for 45 years. They'll never get rid of this. 6 months later, they got rid of it. Right. So I had moved to Southern California, but that was the first moment in my life where I went, oh, this can happen at any time. And I should have a plan. I, at that moment, realized I should have my hand in every single pot I can have my hand in. And so, if I had an idea, or I would write scripts, and I'd try to meet with the people that might be able to produce them. And then, as far as an actor, I would audition for everything. And then, I would try to direct with theater companies that were in the area. So I had by the time I had gone to become a director at Disney, I had a bit of that experience in my past. And then I got to the place where I thought, I don't know that I can do this forever. That there has to be an end game. Especially, I love working in the theme parks because they're really like vaudeville. They're 8 shows a day, and you really get your chops up. And so anytime I kind of hear someone sort of talk, negatively about those experiences or those kind of jobs, I'm like, oh, this is like going to school daily. Especially any of the street stuff that we did, out in Frontierland was really, I learned so much about audiences from there. But anyway, I by that time I had realized that you probably can't, I certainly, when we met, well, did we meet, was I doing the genie when we met? Or
when I met you, yes. When Kesia, you were already directing Frozen.
Okay.
I think you were. I think it was like right in like the transition of like Frozen coming in. You might have just taken over Aladdin as the show director.
Okay, yeah, because there was a key moment there of running up those stairs that I thought, well, I don't. This is coming to an end. And
there were so many stairs in Aladdin. If everybody, nobody understands unless you did the show.
I was a thin guy for many years, and then I kind of, became a not so thin guy. But in Aladdin, they would give you this fat suit to kind of put under the genie costume. And I remember saying to them, I'm cool without the suit. I brought my own home. And I'm good. But there was a level of that you would run up those stairs. There was this big giant staircase in this big production number, and you would run up, after singing or in the middle of this song, and then you would run up these stairs and then kind of have to come back down. And I would go home and think, what happens if I have a heart attack there? I sort of thought what would happen is that I would die on the way to the hospital as somebody was trying to take me out of the genie makeup, because Disney wouldn't want me to be seen as the genie having a heart attack. And so that's where so I kind of thought I maybe should get out of this. So that's how that wound up becoming, hey, maybe I should pursue being a show director here. I was very lucky to have people who believed in me, but the key to the answer to the question is, how do I do that, is really, be dependable, get your stuff in on time, be easy to work with. I mean, it seems so basic, but, those were the things. I was dependable and I was quick. And so if somebody needed a script, I could write a script quickly and I got it in on the deadline. And then I was a collaborator. I wasn't, I had no precious babies, that my beautiful art. How can you be destroying Goofy's beach party bash? How, there was none of that. So
that's I think like the things that you just described, that's definitely how I remember working with you. It's just, you're just such a great collaborator, such a great like thought partner. And you just had this like ability to bring like levity to the room, where we just need to like enjoy our jobs, you know what I mean? Like, and just like create, because that's what we have to do. We're not doctors, we're just, the deep part.
Well, that's part of it. And even today, I remind my teams, we're in the fun business, by the way. So why should everybody else be having fun but us? I mean, really. And I'm a big believer of all of that translates through. If you're enjoying it and having fun and bringing joy, and you're having joy, I think that translates through the performances and the material. I'm such a collaborator that I really love coming together with people. And I as a young director, I thought you had to have all the answers. And that also translated into kind of, once I sort of became a leader as well, that became, that's not the thing. It really, what I found was, you have to have a direction. Direct is in the word director. So you have to have a direction, and you'll all decide as you're piecing these things together if that's the right direction or if you need to adjust. But, that what's great is that that's why they're all there, is to help create. And so it's so much fun to listen to people and get their ideas and their take on things. And that's my favorite part of all of this, right? Is that somebody sees something that and it's all based on their experience and their background and what they've gone through, that brings this interesting idea that you in a million years would never, have thought of. And it's just so exciting.
And then going back to when you left Disney and then officially became part of Knott's, because you became like their creative entertainment director, right?
Yeah, vice president of entertainment there for 5 years prior to the role that I'm in now. And that was, we were working on a bunch of different things with the Disney, and we've done a bunch of different playtesting things. And then at some point, somebody said, hey, would you be interested in trying to find a way to do a program that's similar to the thing that you're kind of working on for us for the 75th anniversary of Ghost Town. And so I did. I brought myself and Kevin Gregg, who you all know, and Rebecca Lumyansky, and we kind of put together a thing called Ghost Town Alive, and that had a great success for them. It was really they have a gentleman who's still with the company, but Rafi Caprillion, who was this really great visionary for them. And he was their GM at the time, and then he's just kind of kept moving. And I'm sure someday we'll probably, run the entire thing. But he was the supportive voice behind that and really wanted that to happen. And it made a huge difference. And I was still a consultant, and about halfway through the run of Ghost Town Alive the first year, he said, "Hey, would you want to come be the vice president of entertainment?" And it's like, yeah, maybe. And now listen, here's the thing that you will all understand, and I'm not speaking negatively about Frozen, but what I'm going to say to you is I had to think, because we were all in the throes of putting that together, and that was an experience. It really, no one left unscathed.
Exactly. Perfectly. That sums it up.
And, you don't want to go into all the details of all of that. But at some point, everybody was, touched positively and probably, negatively in some way. Right. Mm-hmm. And so there was a moment there where that offer had come through. And that week I was doing jury duty, and then I would go and have overnights.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. So I would sleep on the drive over to, sleep on the drive from the courthouse to work, which sounds horrific, right? So
I do remember that.
Without the driver.
That's what it felt like. I mean, that's really what it felt like was, I'll catch some, winks on my drive. But anyway, so there was that moment of, well, do I want to do that? Do I really want to do that? I know there's things that I could come and I could offer, and it's a new sandbox. And the thing that I really liked about it was, I was working with a lot of IP at Disney, like the Muppets, and working on a lot of Star Wars stuff that's still kind of coming out, and but that would never really be mine, right? Mm-hmm. Or it would never be deeply connected to myself and a team. And so I thought, well, that's an opportunity to make a difference somewhere and to really be on the ground level of changing things and changing a culture. And then the other part of it was I just was trying to figure out if I, am I doing that to get out of Frozen? Am I going to take a gig? But really, I was just trying to get away from Frozen, and probably should have just said, I don't want to do this anymore. So anyway, I took it wasn't. The good news is it was that I really wanted to make a difference. And so, I went over to Knott's, and I had never had a place that was just, as I had mentioned, I was in so many different areas and had my hand in so many different pots that once I made the leap there, that was it. I was really there, and I wasn't working outside. I was only working there. But, we did so many fun things, and I worked on attractions there as well. And then that kind of led to the current job that I'm in. So, it all goes back to being nice and getting your stuff in on time and being easy to work with, and that leads you down the path.
I'm a very nice person. I'm easy to work with. So just wink, wink.
No.
Oh, she's always trying to pimp us somehow. Today she's pimping herself.
It's all about building relationships and connections, leveraging, your POCs.
That's it. Well, like I said, you can't hit unless you swing. So give a call.
Yes.
Right.
I love that. How do you find inspiration for maybe it's a project you're working on that you don't really like the material? You're like, no, okay, like, I guess we're do this, but like, how do you like find inspiration for something like that?
That's an awesome question, because early on, I had someone, I have a mentor that, owned the theater company, still owns the theater company in Fresno. His name is Dan Pisano. And Dan is, I think, just one of the most brilliant people ever. And when you think about all of the people that have come through his organization and have gone on to win multiple Tonys and all of these things, they always credit Dan as being this person that they really, learned so much from. Dan taught me early on as a show director that it may not initially gravitate towards the material, or you may not instantly love the material, but you have to find something in it as the director that you like, right? You have to find something in it that speaks to you, so that you can help interpret it and help the group bring it to life. And that's really the key to it. Is I'm constantly looking for the thing that appeals to me, or what another thing that I learned at Imagineering that I thought was really pretty fantastic. We did a lot of Myers-Briggs personality testing. And we tested ourselves, and we wound up, in these four quadrants. We wound up in kind of the upper right corner, and then we did a test with some guests, and they wound up in the lower left. And to me, that instantly explained that thing that we sometimes do as creatives, where we go, "Why don't they get it?" Well, we're not designing. It turned out we were designing for us.
Right.
We were never designing for them. And so that's a big one. That I use that a lot with, if, this is material that wouldn't necessarily appeal to me, but there's an audience for it, and I have to find out what they love about it. And sometimes it's simply the thing that I love about it is that they're going to love it. Right. That I'm going to bring, myself and the team are going to bring joy to them. And, that's what gets me through some of that stuff. But
yeah, no, that's a great like tip for anyone. I mean, I think that's something that's really important.
What are some of the challenges that you deal with, especially working in corporate entertainment? Like, are there challenges where sometimes your creativity is blocked because of just, I don't know, typical pushbacks of certain things?
Yeah, well, in my new role, one of the things that's happening that was never really, an issue for me, but it's kind of, as we're learning, we're all kind of learning how we do this together, and the company's kind of changing and shifting. Is the, believe it or not, the naming process of things. And talk about everybody's got an idea, and so that's the current. I have a list of it's a 10-page list of projects that we're working on, and here are the list of all of these potential names for the multiple projects. And I have found that on the 10 pages, there have been 2 so far that everyone agrees is the right name.
And then you rock, paper, scissors for the name, right?
Well, but there's a level of that too that is it goes back to the collaboration and the once again, that's the right name for you. Once again, it's an idea. But you try to listen and you try to be a good partner with those things. And so if there is pushback, it's really, not being afraid to ask questions, but in a way that doesn't, isn't off-putting to to your other partners, but to really drill down to see, okay, what is it that they're chasing, or what is this that, why is there the pushback here? What's the history? Sometimes those things come that there's a whole history of, well, we did that before and it didn't work. And my question is, then at that point is always, okay, well, what did you learn from that, and how can we do it differently, moving forward? But those are, I think, I mentioned that because that's kind of the current challenge, and it's kind of funny in some ways too, right? Because you come back and you, at the end of the day, go, but you get, we're all just naming a hot dog stand,
Right.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier being in the room and leading a team. What are the things that you enjoy the most in that role of being a leader?
Well, I love seeing people grow, and I love seeing people have success.
Mhm.
That's huge for me. And I love that. The other thing I love is that I love when we can all kind of come together, and the thing I always push for is that it's easy enough to celebrate how alike we all are. If we can come together and be a team and a collective and kind of a group mind, but also still celebrating how different we are. For me as a leader, that's always the thing that I love the most, is that you can kind of, and it takes a while to get there, but that you can bring people together and we all believe in the same dream and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to work toward, what the goal is. And and working together to leave the ego at the door, that the thing we're trying to accomplish is greater than all of us, right? But we're all going to get to bring something into it. I've always thought of myself less of a leader and more as I'm the obstetrician, right? That I'm always there to help the birth.
Yeah.
And it works better sometimes if I don't get in the way, But anyway, I had about 500 people out at Knott's that I led for the past 5 years, and really a great team. And then now I have 2 people, and it's a bit of a whoa, okay, but it's great, and I love them all. I've been just so lucky to work with so many awesome people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then
I was included.
Oh,
yeah.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah.
Working with you is the best. If anybody out there gets a chance to work with Ken Parks, you're in for a real treat.
That's very kind. Thanks. I think it depends on who you ask.
Oh man, that's awesome. I going like kind of in line with Renee's question, like we actually don't talk a lot about leadership on our podcast, and that's kind of interesting. I was just thinking about that. Like we've all been leaders and we all lead teams. So, but I guess like, what do you do, or what traits do you try to use to foster growth within your team, the teams that you've led?
The biggest one for me is to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, anywhere that I go that is new for me, I spend time listening and understanding. And once again, my job is to kind of get us all together and move us forward and to really get us to all believe in the dream and the goal. And so listening is the biggest part of it, and to understand what makes us, everyone tick, and what's the individual accomplishment that wants to happen, with everybody, right? Where do I want to get to? And it's a little like plate spinning sometimes, especially the more people you have to lead, is, you're constantly sort of, because everyone's at their different level, but you're just there. So when we did the Myers-Briggs stuff, what I found out was I am as introverted as you can be, but I'm also a feeler. So I'm as, on the feeler scale, I'm as high a feeler, emotional person as you can be. And I think that has helped a lot. There's I'm a nurturer, and so I think that has really helped being a leader, is that I think that hopefully the teams understand. And once again, the other thing that I learned from Dan Pisano that is just seems so basic, but never to ask anyone to do something you wouldn't do yourself, right? And to let the team see you doing it. And so, it isn't that somehow you sit on high and are able to tell, you're there with them out in the field, and if there's something heavy to lift, and you're there, right? And if you're not lifting it, at least you're there supporting it and helping them. Really, leaders should always be at the service of their teams, right? I would often say that, and still say that. I'm here to serve you, right? I'm here to make your experience and your job easier. And so, it seems to have worked.
I love it, Ken.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's great.
I think as we wrap up, do you have any like last bits of words of wisdom to share with listeners about being a director, being an actor, being now an executive, and
being a
live
human, being a
entertainment?
dad, being a husband. How do you do it all? I don't know.
Well, I have an awesome wife, which we've talked about. She's amazing, and I have an awesome son. So that part is really I'm very lucky. And we've said so many things in our conversation, but I don't give up. Don't give up. The idea that you know what the outcome is or what the outcome should be in life or in a career is just that's not it. It's the thing is, don't give up, keep going, fight for what you believe in. And it all kind of happens. And sometimes it doesn't happen in the way you expected it. But I always found that I was always in a place when I'd look back, good experience or bad experience, that I was supposed to be there. I look back and kind of go, you know what, I wound up where I was supposed to be. I used to worry a lot about money when I was in my 20s, and oh my gosh, what if I can't make a living doing this or will the phone ring? Well, the phone always seemed to ring, or I ate a lot of ramen and, as we all have in our life, but that's okay. That's part of the experience. But the thing that it used to be sort of crippling. My thoughts on money used to be absolutely crippling to me, And then one day I realized I had always had shoes, and so and I think that when you were asking the question earlier about when you're in those experiences and how do you find the joy in those things, I think if you drill down to the basics, if we all remember at some point as we're arguing for our piece to be heard or our thing to be produced, we're still floating on a ball in space that we have no control of. Right. So on some level, right, just go with it. You're good. Just don't give up. That's the other part. Just don't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Ken.
Gosh. It was so fun.
You're amazing.
Yay! You're so inspiring. It's just very inspirational conversation, and thank you.
Well, I thank you all, and thanks for being such a part of our journey together. Isn't it? It's just so awesome. I there are all these things that we all of us, we don't know what kind of impact we have on one another because we're so caught up in what we're doing, and then you get back to moments like these, and I don't know when the last time I've thought about that smoking jacket and Santiago Cortez. I would have probably forgotten. And as I'm getting older, it's easier to forget everything, right?
I think you need to resurrect Santiago and incorporate him somewhere in one of your entertainment offerings.
Well, maybe he'll stop by your podcast sometime. From Santiago.
Yes, please do.
I love it.
Yeah, it's so sweet. Well, thank you all.
Thanks so much, Ken.
Thank you,
for
Ken.
making the time. We know that you're busy. We're many hours apart, and thank you, Dawn, for being our technician over there.
She's so awesome. Yeah.
Big hugs to you and her, and just congratulations on everything. We are very proud. We are honored to say that we know you, and thank you for joining us today, because this has been great.
Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about Ken and his career in the theme park entertainment industry, you can check him out on LinkedIn at Ken Parks. Again, Ken Parks on LinkedIn.
Yes, and please be sure to subscribe to all of our podcast platforms so you can stay up to date on all of our latest shenanigans. And hey, while you're at it, go ahead and write us a quick little review letting us know what you think about the podcast. We love hearing from you. We post new episodes of WtFun podcast every other Friday. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.